Tom, thanks for joining us now. Sam as well. Tom, let's first start with you. You recently wrote an article on ESPN.com about the two leagues merging, Liga MX, Major League Soccer. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, basically the context to this, what's happened in the last few days is that Mexico's obviously suspended promotion and relegation for 5 years. It's another step that points towards further integration of Liga MX with MLS, and Santos Laguna and Atlas owner Alejandro Irarragorri has basically come out and said, look, we need to study this 100% seriously. He said that basically for MLS over the short term, it is, working more with Liga MX is really good. Over the medium term, it's better for Liga MX, but over the long term, it's better for both leagues. So, it's really kind of generated this debate, this kind of conversation, especially in Mexico, because obviously, this is absolutely massive for the Mexican game. I mean, it feels to me like sometimes that Mexico's kind of been in the middle in a way. It's kind of got a European influence. It's got obviously a Latin American, a South American influence, but it's also got a US influence with obviously the border and the influence of US North American sports. So it's like, it seems right now that Mexico is very much looking north.
Sam, when you hear that, we've had random conversations over the last 4 or 5 years of Major League Soccer talking about these outlandish things. I remember in 2015, an MLS Cup on ESPN FC, I said, I'd like to see some kind of merger of Canada, Mexico, the United States. I had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I was throwing stuff against the wall. Yet now when you hear it, it's not that outlandish, is it?
No, not outlandish at all. And, along with everything going on in Mexico over the last week or so that Tom just outlined, you take a look back over the last couple of years with everything that's happened with MLS and Liga MX. You have Campeones Cup between the champion of MLS and the champion of the Campeón de Campeones in Mexico, right? You have Leagues Cup, which is really important, I think, in terms of it being a statement of where these two leagues want to go. And it's only going to be more and more after that. You think about the All-Star game for this year that may or may not end up happening now, of course. But, that was going to be between MLS and Liga MX, and everything is pointing to a deeper and deeper relationship. I've had people tell me high up in the league that, Leagues Cup is just kind of the precursor. It's a little bit of a test run, right? And they rolled it out probably too quickly. But that's the point. They want to do this fast. They want to get into it. They want to deepen those relationships. I personally have a lot of questions about it. What would it look like, right? Who knows? Like, how do you get over the logistical issues? Is there promotion and relegation? How do you deal with like a 50-team league? All of those things I don't know. And I think there are a lot more questions in terms of fan response too. But the motivations are pretty obvious, and they start and end with money, in my opinion.
Taylor, there's obviously a lot of hurdles. We can spend probably 30 minutes going over the hurdles.
Right.
One thing that I don't like about the coverage sometimes is I hear a lot of the word merger. And I don't think that's the right way of looking at it. I don't think this is a merger. This isn't, Liga MX all of a sudden jumps on board and there's designated players and, Gam and Tam and whatever, whatever goes on in MLS these days. This is about, I think the analogy is Major League Baseball. I think it's the American and the National League who didn't play interleague play until 1997. Yep. And I think the Campeones Cup that Sam mentioned there, that's basically, I know it sounds ridiculous and people laugh at this, but that's basically the World Series. Yep. And I think that's the analogy. It's like you don't have to have two leagues that are 100% aligned to make this work in terms of TV rights, sponsorships. I mean, obviously they've got to get close together. And that's what we've seen this week with Mexico. It's 100% what we've seen. We've seen Mexico take a gigantic step. Let's not kind of diminish how big a deal this is in Mexico. To suspend promotion and relegation for a league with so much history as Mexico has for 5 years is a massive step. And I'm sure people within MLS, will be looking at this step and thinking, look, Liga MX is taking this really seriously. So I do think it's a step-by-step process. It's not, I don't think there is necessarily a grand plan of how's this kind of super, North American Super League going to work. But I think, like what Sam was saying, it's the Leagues Cup, it's the other tournaments that are going on right now, and I think it's going to be interleague play as the next step, and then the final hurdle, if everything goes to plan, and I think that's the big if, and that's the big question. If everything goes to plan, then you start talking seriously about a North American Super League.
Sam, how receptive do you think MLS owners are going to be around this idea? Because for me, I think it's prudent of them to be very open to that.
Well, I think they've already shown that they are very open to it, right? With all of these things that have already been in place, Leagues Cup, Campeones Cup, All-Star Game, moving further in that direction. You know, they're sitting in these Board of Governors meetings, and I'm sure that this is something that's been discussed and been sounded out, been talked about on the various committees that are important around MLS. And I would expect that most of them are buying in pretty well. At the end of the day, MLS needs to grow, right? They need to become more nationally, or I guess internationally relevant, and they need to have better TV ratings, and they really need to do it quickly. Right, Taylor, this is something that you're, of course, very well versed in. But, you know, Liga MX outrates MLS in terms of TV coverage, right? So if you're able to kind of combine the two leagues and merge those two audiences, not to use that word, Tom, but, you know, to sort of combine those two audiences, that could lead to positive outcomes for MLS owners in terms of how much money their clubs are generating. And I think that at the end of the day will drive whatever this is and whatever it looks like and whatever it turns out to be. I do question what the fan response is going to be, though, particularly in Mexico. I think that's a huge thing.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more, Sam. I couldn't agree with you more. And Tom, when you really look at this World Cup in 2026, Canada, the United States, and Mexico, doesn't it feel like all the clubs, all the franchises, all three countries are looking at that being the real blossoming point for this league to actually work?
100%. I mean, you know, it gives a timeline. I think a nice timeline. All three are obviously working together. You know, it doesn't diminish kind of all the work that needs to be still done. You know, and I think there's another couple of issues as well. I mean, what is Mexico's second division going to look like? It comes coincidentally at the time that the US now has got this kind of developmental league, or, you know, I'm not 100% sure what's going to go on there. I mean, are they going to kind of integrate a little bit more there? And I think the global context is important as well. I mean, the tendency is towards kind of the Super League. I mean, you know, I'm sure European giants would absolutely love a European Super League. And I just feel that North America is probably the most advanced kind of area of the world where that could happen. But just quickly on the Mexico fans thing, it's just, I mean, there's no other way of saying it. I mean, the CONCACAF Champions League, I think Mexican clubs have won the last 15 titles now. That has to change. For the average Mexico fan in Mexico or in the United States, it's difficult to sell the concept of a Super League when one league is so dominant. And I know MLS is getting better, and 100% it is. But until those results kind of get a little bit more even, it's a difficult sell to the Mexico fan.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.